afternoon. I'm still away on holiday actually in Cornwall and enjoying it. This is my BMW 7 Series, but that behind it is a Volvo C40 Recharge electric car, twin motor. So as a bonus video, here's what happened when I drove one of those for the first time a couple of years ago when they first came out. Here's the review, enjoy. Now, whilst I was editing this video in Cornwall, waiting for the sun to come out, you could buy a C40 Recharge now. There's one here on Auto Trader, 50,000 miles, £21,000. But also, I'm wrong at the list price. List price was £53,000. So it's 53 grand when it was new. And there's one here for £21,000. Let's ignore that though, because it's in Birmingham, and you don't buy cars from Birmingham. One here in Ipswich, £21,582. Warrington, £22,000. It's red, and it's only done 17,000 miles. That means it's depreciated 30,000 quid in 2 years and 17,000 miles. That's astonishing. So let's have a little look at the C40 from an exterior point of view. I think electric cars are kind of all going a very similar direction with the way they're styled at the moment. But I do think the C40 has done something right. I would, if I owned one, probably wrap that front grille, which would make it all the more aggressive. So I'll drop a little Photoshop in there and see if we can make that work from a styling point of view. Huge wheels on this, but then all electric cars these days have got, well, all cars generally, the wheels and tyres are just massive. So that is 20-inch running 255s, 255 40s and 20s on the back. I dread to think how much a set of tyres is on something like that. But this car is astonishingly quick as well, so I would imagine it would go through tyres at quite a rate. These little aggressive Lamborghini style spoilers on the back, they do look very cool. It is a really well styled car from pretty much every angle actually. I don't mind this. Inside we have lots of buttons on the steering wheel, obviously because it's a modern car. Lots of buttons on the doors as well, again because it's a modern car. Harman Kardon sound system, and just got this real simple gear knob down here. You just quite simply engage it in drive, neutral or reverse. Took me about 3 weeks to work out how it all works, but there we go. Gigantic screen on the front, and there's also, when it's switched on, a gigantic screen just here as well. So there's a lot going on with these cars. Nicely designed though, comfortable, firm, very firm ride I found on this car. Glass roof, which is great. Check out, I've got a flocked door card. You'd expect that just to be plastic, but no, it's upholstered. In the back, we have a child seat. No child, thankfully. Again, headroom's going to be compromised by the design of the car, but basically that's the way modern cars are these days. Plenty of space in the back for an adult wearing a bobble hat, and it's quite a lovely thing. I could definitely see in the back of here and become really, really car sick whilst my dad accelerates at 0 to 60 in 4 seconds or whatever it is, every time he has to use the throttle, which is the only way to drive an electric car, I think. So I believe £47,000 is the starting price on the C40. If I had £47,000 to drop on a Volvo right now, pretty confident it would be that one. Well, this is awkward. I've popped to Volvo to talk about some old-fashioned technology, and they've said, why don't I go for a little run in some new technology? So this is my first experience of driving an electric car, and I'm apprehensive, but let's see. First impressions, the steering is so light. Bearing in mind, I've just jumped out of a 1996 Volvo 850 T5 that is, everything's heavy. How can I turn these blowers off? Let's have a look. So on my front screen here, I've got everything, but I can't seem to find where my blowers are. If I put that down to 1, because I think all you're hearing at the front there is air blowing through. Let's go, let's accelerate. I'm going to go slowly out. This car has allegedly got 400 horsepower equivalent. It's lovely and quiet. It's very nice. I've got a heated steering wheel in an electric car. That's ludicrous, but quite nice. Right, I'm going to put my foot down and see what happens. Jesus Christ! That's ridiculous! I don't like electric cars. I'm might just do that again just to make sure. Okay, that was genuine. That wasn't me acting or anything. That was my surprise. But I was just saying in the showroom, I usually drive old cars. So even when I jump in a modern car that is petrol or diesel powered, for example, I jump in my wife's 116 diesel BMW, and I find that quite fast. Because my daily car is a very old, very high mileage 2.5 diesel Volvo 850 that's probably lost most of its horsepower. So I'm coming from cars like that and jumping in this 400 horsepower equivalent, and suddenly it feels quite ludicrous. And I'm probably talking very loud, because normally when I film, I'm talking over the noise of the engine. That is quite unbelievable, the way it boots you in the back. I was really not ready for that. It picks up speed. Why are we not having more crashes? Because people are driving these electric cars so damn fast. We should be. I'll do it again. That's eye-opening. That is quite eye-opening. I've got this lovely full-length glass roof. This is a demo car, so I presume it's fairly high spec. Obviously my hands are being warmed by the heated steering wheel. I think my heated seat's on as well. It is as well. I think my heated seat has decided to come on by itself. I mean, I'm not complaining, because that is lovely, but like I said, I've never had so much power in my bottom before driving this car. Obviously, I don't like the fact that everything in here is digital. I have digital maps, I have digital, well, it's basically two iPads. I'm essentially staring at two iPads. There's so much on this one I don't know what is going on, and there's so much on this one I don't know what is going on, so I'm going to leave all of that stuff alone. But we'll get out onto a slightly faster road and see if we can have a little play with it. So this car is absolutely jam-packed full of technology. I can put on different driving modes, I can put on speed assist, I can put on lane keeping aid, and steering assist. I don't want assistance with any of those things. I like to be in charge of it. Okay, I don't like the heated steering wheel. It's a bit weird. How do I turn that off? Like, it was nice when I first jumped in the car, but now it's just a bit odd. Maybe you get used to that. Do you get used to a heated steering wheel? How do I turn that off? How hot does the heated steering wheel get? My roof doesn't open, which is a shame. I like glass roofs, but I like it when they open. Can we do a quick 0 to 60 here? The wheel spin. This is like a normal car for normal people. It's not like you buy this because it's a performance car, and it's so fast. God. Oh, braking. Honestly, why aren't more of these being put in bushes by people? Like, when you plant your foot, crikey, I'm going fast. These things are dangerous. How did it do that? Honestly. Okay, I know you're all there in the comments being like, oh, Geoff, everybody told you that electric cars were fast. Why haven't you done this before? Because I'm just a bit, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's great and everything, but it almost doesn't feel right. If that makes sense. Would that get old? Seriously, genuinely, would that get old? Flooring it like that from every single junction and at every possible opportunity. I'm not sure I'd get bored of that. It might give you a bad back eventually though. So, electric cars, right? They make sense financially, but that's only because the way the government has set up the financial incentives for electric cars. So if you don't do many miles to work, and if you can charge it relatively cheaply, and if you can buy one relatively cheaply because someone else is buying it for you, i.e. it's a company car, then they make absolutely perfect sense. Where they make less sense is in the sort of Geoff philosophy of cars being value for money. And by that I mean, you know, I'm not going to walk into a dealership and spend 47 grand on one of these because I could go buy a car for 470 quid. But that's just me, and I'm not everybody. which is probably a good thing. Let's do it again! Okay, this is ridiculous. I'm not allowed to say how fast that car ended up going then, but it didn't feel like I was going that fast. It's very, very deceptive. Like, driving an electric car, my concept of speed and how fast I'm actually going has gone out the window because there's no noise, there's no sense of occasion. I'm not engaging the clutch, I'm not working my way through the gears, I'm not listening to the gearbox working and hearing the revs. It's just speed with no noise. Very deceptive. So, people who drive electric cars, do you spend your whole time watching the speedo and the range? Let's go. That is ridiculous. Nobody needs a car that's that quick. Ride's perhaps a little firm, but modern cars are always firm. It's very rare that I drive a new car where I think, oh, this is comfortable. My seat's firm, but I guess this is a fairly sporty model. What else is there to say about this? My range has gone down by 10 miles, and I've driven, well, I definitely haven't driven 10 miles. But then, my Volvos do that anyway. It's very rare your range goes up in a Volvo. You can't compare a second-hand diesel car with anything new and electric, because unless you're comparing the way the vehicles are financed, it's never ever going to be a fair fight. The electric car will always come out on top, other than the times when the old car will always come out on top. So unless you're comparing in a very fair way, for example, saying something like, I have £50,000 in cash, what is the best value way for me to buy and run a car for the next 3 years? Because not everybody wants to drive around in 30-year-old Volvos. I realise that. You lot do. I do. But not everybody does. So if you've got 50 grand to spend, you probably wouldn't go and buy a car for £1,000 and pocket the rest. I would. You probably would. Some people wouldn't. When you're like cruising up to a junction, for example, there's quite a lot of movement on the throttle before it does anything. This is just too fast. No one needs to go this fast. I think if we're going to go all out for electric cars as a nation, we need to straighten all the roads. It's like I'm almost finding it scary. Like I'm holding on. Like I'm holding on and I'm hoping that I don't crash. And again, people who are watching who drive fast cars all the time are probably like, well, whatever. This is not what cars used to be like. Cars were never like this. In the old days, if you had a car that could do 0 to 60 in, say, 7 seconds, that was something ludicrously impressive. The Volvo 850 T5s, when they first came out, were fast cars, 230 odd horsepower. This will do 0 to 60 in, well, I'll tell you in a minute. I'm getting used to the quiet. I guess that's how quickly it happens, isn't it? All I've got is tyre noise and a little bit of wind buffeting. And do you know what? It's nice. It's peaceful. I get it. I've got a chunky steering wheel that's quite nice. Obviously, as I've said, I don't like the big screens. But I've got proper door handles. I've got Harman Kardon sound system. There's a lot to like about it. There is. Apart from the price and all the obvious things that I've said before in my other videos. The thing is, once you've moved over to an electric car, you're never going back, are you? You're never going to go back from this. Why would you go back to internal combustion, diesel or petrol, once you've had an electric car and you get used to driving it to work in the morning and it being charged and never putting petrol in and charging it at home and possibly charging it at work? You're never going to go back to petrol stations and standing at the pump for 10 minutes in the cold on a morning. You're just never going to go back to that unless it's for financial reasons, i.e. for some reason you can't afford the payments on your electric car. The rest of the time, as a sort of cultural transition, once you go electric, you're not going back. Is that worrying? Well, I don't know, because it really depends on the mix of where we are getting our electricity from, doesn't it? If we can reach a stage where we are powering our electric cars by safe, renewable energy and not coal power stations, then that's all well and good. But you can't deny the environmental impact of making one of these cars. So you have to suspend your belief in the good of the planet when you're buying one, because it only makes financial sense for yourself. There's a load of green lane guys just gone down here. I'm going to follow them. Look at these guys up ahead in their gas guzzlers doing off-road stuff with all their roof racks. Don't they know what harm they're causing to the environment by going out into nature and burning fossil fuels to power their vehicles? Look, he's even got wood on the roof of his roof rack. What's he going to do with that? Burn it? I'm going to jump out. I'm going to have a word. Unbelievable destruction of the environment that's taking place right before my very eyes with these three big gas guzzling 4x4 trucks. It totally changes your perception on what cars are capable of. Like, let's forget the way it's fueled. The performance is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And if you're going to be driving around in a city, and we've all been in cities where there is pollution and you can smell it, you know, you're walking along and you've got traffic next to you, it's not nice. So if you can look at, there's another car there with a wheel falling off. What's with trailers and wheels falling off? We had this in my last video. From an environmental viewpoint on the emissions that are coming out the back of the tailpipe, wonderful, love it. On the performance of the vehicle, absolutely love it, brilliant. Don't even mind the fact that it doesn't make any noise whilst doing it. It's just great fun. As a car, well, it's still a car, it's still got seats, still got doors, still does all the car things apart from towing trailers. As a long distance proposition, no, not going to work. Could I drive this car to Cornwall right now without any major trouble? I'd have to work out charging it and whatnot, so I couldn't. Could I drive it up to Scotland with my T5? I just fill it with petrol and then I go. With this, not so much. Let's try another 0 to 60 just here. Again, like, I can stop in the middle of the road and I know that I'm going to be able to do it because I know that I can gather the speed fast enough. Here we go. 0 to 60, nothing coming, straight road ahead, go. 60. No, it's just ridiculous. You don't need a car this fast. Why don't they make them smaller, lighter, less powerful, make them out of plastic so they're super lightweight so they have a massive range? Use the same battery, cut the weight, cut all the crap that you don't need, like seats that go forward electrically and a heated steering wheel that makes your hands feel weird and sort of makes you feel a little bit sick, and make an electric car that makes sense. That's what I think they should do. The speed that it allows you to go on roads where you would never normally have driven that fast, because it gets there so quickly. I've driven faster in this car today than I've driven in any car for a very, very long time, because it just does it. You just put your foot down and it's there. There's no waiting around. When I did that big road trip to the Elam Valley in the Saab 9.5, there was one stretch where I accelerated and I made some significant speed up. One stretch in the whole day. In this car, it's been every stretch of road. Every semi-straight stretch of road, it's been doing it. Like, it grabs your stomach. When you floor it, it grabs your stomach. Is that sensible for, like, your family car? Your kids are going to be sick all the time. Okay, let's summarise my time with this car. I can't remember in my life a time when a car has made me feel car sick. Yes, the roads around here are terrible because it's all country lanes and there's all sorts of cambers going on and everything. And yes, I've been driving like a lunatic. but I've never made myself feel sick before. And I'm not entirely sure that's a good thing. A car shouldn't be able to do this. Oh, look at this. That's 60 already. In no time and no space at all. It rewrites the wheel. It rewrites the rules of what cars can do. And if we're going to normalise this kind of performance in electric cars, then the petrol and diesel car is dead based on that alone. You would never go back to a petrol or a diesel car after you've had this. This one particularly, the ride is far too harsh. Why is the ride so harsh? Maybe it could go on smaller wheels, but it's set up very, very stiff. And like I said, the roads around here are not good, but yeah, it's a very sporty feeling car. But I'm blown away by the performance, and as I've said, if we're going to normalise that sort of level of performance, then the internal combustion car is completely dead. Yeah, I mean, I knew electric cars were capable of stupid feats of acceleration, and this isn't, a particularly performance one either. How the hell does it do that? It's showing me a drone's eye view of my car as I park it. So, right, put it in park. Do I turn it off? Absolutely bizarre levels of performance. Electric cars, they make sense on performance, they make sense on noise, they make sense on emissions. I love all of those things. Very quiet, very not smelly, very fast. So depending on how you finance it, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Yes, you had to build the thing in the first place. Yes, that creates huge pollution problems. Yes, it's massively, massively overly technically complex. There's all sorts of things on here that I don't need, but I get it. I get why people buy them. Well, they lease them. I better give it back now. We step back into the past then for the drive home. Look, I've got a traditional key that goes in a traditional ignition barrel. I'm not sure how I feel about all that. The performance of that car is ludicrous. It's the nature of electric vehicles that's the way electric motors deliver their power. Mated to a four-wheel drive transmission, it's just insane. It is like cars have gone to a completely different realm. That is it better? I don't know. You don't need to go that fast. There's a whole lot of different facets to the electric car argument, but you can't deny that experience is, I don't want to say life-changing because that's too much of a big word, but as a petrol head it really is. I'm not going to rush out to buy an electric car, but experiencing that level of performance, yeah, it's definitely different. But then from there you walk over in the showroom to look at the P1800 and you see we go from where we are now to where we've been. And the character and the design and the thought that is in the 1800, it's hard not to be moved by that car. How do I feel now driving my slightly ropey 850 T5? Well, again, mixed emotions. I'm not driving the world's best 850 T5. Had I left the showroom and jumped in the world's best 850 T5, then we would be in a different position. I'm not running full boost. I am running a lot of oil leaks, and I now know that that I need a little bit of suspension work and some brakes. But that's just old cars for you. But speed is now irrelevant. Speed is now completely irrelevant. When this car was new, it was an impressive 200 plus horsepower family saloon.
it is now a dinosaur. Irrelevant. 230 horsepower, irrelevant. Let's say I, go have it remapped and do all these different things to it to bring it up to 300 horsepower. What's the point? What is the point? There is no need, because it's finished. The performance of petrol and diesel cars is finished. Unless you look at the long-term impact on the environment based on what it costs to build these vehicles, which, let's be honest, nobody is keeping for 10 years. Everybody who buys one of those Volvos is going to chop it in 3 years' time. That is before the Volvo has justified itself from an environmental point of view. However, nobody is buying electric cars because of the environmental argument. I firmly believe the only reason people are buying electric cars is because of the financial argument. And the financial side of electric car ownership is skewed by government policy. So we can't have a valid comparison between non-electric cars and electric cars until the financial benefit playing field is evened out, which it won't be. So a very interesting day. I like old cars. I like the way they feel. I like the way they smell. I like the way they're connected to the road. There's something in vehicles that were built 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, where everything just felt more connected. Everything felt like it mattered more. And I've said this in my videos in the past, and you're probably bored of hearing me say it, but there's a visceral connection to cars like this. If something breaks, I could put it on my ramps at home and I could fix it. You can't do that with a modern car, and maybe people don't want to, and maybe people don't need to, but for me there's something important in that. It gives me an element of control over my own destiny. The fact that I can go to any petrol station and put petrol in my car and drive it 500 miles, give or take, or 750 miles in my diesel Volvo, I like that. There's a power, there's an empowerment in having the ability to do that, and that has always been my biggest concern about the electric car movement. The minute anybody turns the power off, the minute anybody ramps the fuel price up on your electricity, digitally that car can be turned off at any given point. You can't tell me that Volvo don't have a kill switch where someone can phone up and say, "Here Volvo, we've got one that we need you to disable." Yep, no worries, what's the code on it? Press the button, your car's disabled. Call me a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, but it's nice to be back in my 850 T5. But it's been a very interesting day, and I'm going to finish up by, let's just give a moment for Mr. Irv Gordon, who drove his car 3 million miles. Let's just think about what it was like to do that. He bought the car in the late 60s or early 70s, and he drove it 3 million miles across different countries in a different time. Can you imagine what it must have been like to drive a 60s Volvo 1,500 miles across the States in a weekend? And as Irv Gordon said, there's always somewhere to go. And I think we've forgotten that. It's so easy to not do anything and not go on these adventures and not jump in the car because you don't want the kids to be sat in the back and you don't want them to be on their devices, and the wife doesn't want to get in the car because she's been driving around all week. So you just stay at home and do nothing. I don't want to stay at home and do nothing. I want to get out and explore. I want to go places. I want to see things, and I want to drive my cars. And I don't want to be limited by range, and I don't want to feel seasick because the acceleration is so hard and the suspension is so harsh. I'm not sold on the electric car movement because I think the bigger picture of the environmental impact is not fully understood by anyone, but I don't think people care. I think that's why I get so annoyed about it. It's mostly virtue signalling, and if it's not virtue signalling, then it's your wallet. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all driven by money. I don't know. Today has left me feeling, I'm not sure. let me know in the comments what you think of my foray into electric cars. Let me know if you like my T5. Which car would you be driving home in of all the cars we've seen today? Thanks very much for watching me take my electric car virginity. Something about the sound of a 5-cylinder. I don't know. I don't know, viewers. I don't know what the future holds. I don't think you're going to get me out of my 90s Volvos anytime soon, though. I'm confident of that. I just love them. And I can't even fully tell you why. And maybe that's what it's all about. The bits that we don't understand, that don't make mathematical or scientific sense, but you feel it in here for some reason.